Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am the Gaming Ace, and welcome to my little afternoon stream, man. We are chilling, having a pretty awesome, easy-going Tuesday. Destiny 2 Reset is live in like an hour. All right, we're gonna relax. It's live in like an hour. The story is actually been popping. The story has been popping these past few weeks. So what we're gonna do is hit up one of my favorite YouTubers. My name is Vife, and have us catch up a little bit on the lore. Yeah, let me turn this music down just a little bit. Actually, I'm gonna do that. We're just gonna pause this shit then. I got my mic. Slow that. Turn that down there. There we go. All right. So let's make this quick and easy, right? I have to make sure I have my PC stuff set up the right way too. Ba, 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 ba. I don't even know where I want to even start off to catch up with you guys. First things first. Let's why do I have skipped frames? No, we're good. We're straight. Okay. Let's see what we can do here. What do we want to catch up on? Because we had a few. Okay, right here. This is what we want to start
about
with.
Aldrin and Crow.
Let's start from the
Wonder
beginning.
ended with a hard. Greetings, Guardians. My name is Bife here. Mara Sov. She's always been a being with far superior insight than most of the rest of us put together. She's been willing to make sacrifices and take risks that we couldn't even fathom, going so far as to die for us to obtain a chance at defeating Oryx, the Taken King. However, everyone has a weakness, a soft spot, something ripe for exploitation, and in some instances, someone they take for granted. For Mara, I think it's becoming all the more clear that this is Aldrin Sov, or as he's now known, Crow. Mara is usually composed and aloof when it comes to anything, even delicate matters of statecraft, but over the last few weeks with Aldrin, she's started to show a very ugly part of her personality that is very much based in grief, but also highlights the kind of toxic, controlling relationship that existed between her and her brother. Now that Aldrin is dead and Crow has taken his place, Mara is beginning to see the extent to which she's lost control of him. And with all of this, we can perhaps start to understand where Crow's storyline is headed. Before anything else needs to be said, I think it should be made clear that Mara does love her brother. She does indeed treat him as a brother should in some instances. But in many other instances, that treatment is laced with a degree of control that can only be seen as toxic. It's something where he's treated in the context of being the second sibling. It's something where he's treated in the context of being nothing more than a tool. This leads to probably one of the most fascinating points at which Mara's story can be found, here in the Season of the Lost, where we're actively able to see her making actions such as taking revenge on Crow's behalf, whilst also still attempting to find a way to ensure that Crow returns to her and fills in the role that Aldrin once did, so that her control over him can resume as it once was. To start with, in order to understand all of this, I think we need to head back to the Argus Scepter quest and look into the dialogue from week 2 of that quest, which talks about some of Mara's earliest interactions with her brother as an Awoken and how she helped bring him into being in the Distributory. And something about this is really going to reveal the major note of all of Aldrin and, to a great extent, Crow's story. Take a listen to this.
I understand you bear some knowledge of the Awoken, but our creation is still only myth to you, Warlock. Hear the truth. When the Awoken people came into being after the collapse, I was the first. As first, my chosen form defined what an Awoken could be. Thousands followed my example. willing themselves into existence within the distributary. Some, like Uldren, required help. His mind was like an unsteady fawn. No surprise he was unable to do it on his own. So I guided him, filled the gaps in his memory. I gave him a star to follow. He was bonded to me, and his devotion spiraled into pathetic recklessness. Even through death, he hasn't outgrown that dependency. I see it in him as he looks longingly to his ghost for answers. To you.
Here we learn an important part of Uldren's story, which is simply that he was brought into his second life with a degree of dependence. The entire story of Arga's scepter effectively mirrors that, as Uldren, or Arga in the story, is constantly attempting to gain Mara's favour by searching for the scepter. This is something that can be seen in the lore of the Forsaken Prince lorebook, where Uldren is persistently taking actions that are rebellious or daring in order to prove his worth to his sister. She sees this often as a persistent annoyance, but ultimately understands that she can use this and twist Uldren to her needs, and that is how she persistently controls him. That is the kind of relationship that they have taken on, and even down to the point where he was not handed Arga's scepter because Mara did not perceive him as ready. It highlights that there is indeed a degree to which there is toxic control going on here. In fact, part of the reason Mara didn't hand Uldren the scepter is because he had not yet fulfilled the purpose that she had deemed necessary for him. She was holding on to it until he could fulfill the things she needed, reconnecting the distant territories under her control. This can be seen by some of the further discourse at the end of the Arga's Scepter lore, where Mara says the following.
I failed to shape Uldren in accordance with my goals, but if I were to take all that he was and reveal that past to him now, would he be my brother? Or is it only his echoes that remain? I see many of those same beginnings leading now to different ends. Tell me, would you be so forgiving if Crow carried more of Uldren with him? Would you still accept him?
No.
Many of his faults were not of his own making. Uldren's decisions were his, of course, but driven by whips in the hands of others. Myself included. I will have to offer him more than an old story of an empty promise if I wish to see that ember burn again. This is the path I led Uldren down. If certain actors had kept to their roles, I would have wielded Uldren Salve, Light-Bearer. But even Mara Salve cannot control everyone. I celebrate his resurrection in the light, but I detest seeing my brother rewritten, his greater self sloughed away and swept into the cellar. There is still good to draw from who he was. Don't squander it. He needs a star to guide him. Uldren or Crow, they are the same in that regard. I
out of pettiness. I won't say I didn't recommend it.
Would you still accept him?
Alright, I'm back. Stupid as fuck.
Many of his faults were not of his own making. Uldren's decisions were his, of course, but driven by whips in the hands of others. Myself included. I will have to offer him more than an old story of an empty promise if I wish to see that ember burn again. This is the path I led Uldren down. If certain actors had kept to their roles, I would have wielded Uldren Sov, Lightbearer. But even Mara Sov cannot control everyone. I celebrate his resurrection in the light, but I detest seeing my brother rewritten, his greater self sloughed away and swept into the cellar. There is still good to draw from who he was. Don't squander it. He needs a star to guide him. Uldren or Crow, they are the same in that regard. Ager's scepter is yours, then. Both its burden and the freedom it can provide. Be careful with it, Guardian. He is prone to devotion.
Uldren isn't just a brother to Mara, he's also a tool. And to be honest, I think that Mara Sov is so used to getting her way that she's never had to think of him in any other context than one where he is both of these things and not one or the other. Her brother has always been one of the best tools she's had to exact her will upon the world, and any respect, pity, or affection that she could have shown for him feels as though it's diminished by his potential as a tool, and oftentimes is hidden because it might diminish his potential as a tool. As it's always been, Mara has seen her brother as lesser, and has defined him by the destiny she foresaw for him, and not a destiny that he might make for himself. And to an extent, this is true factually. She is the most powerful awoken being in existence. But that doesn't make her any less of his sister, and it doesn't make him any less of her brother. And ultimately, it treads to that point of perhaps Mara being a cosmic being that is so detached that ultimately she still doesn't see things in the same context as we do. When we look at our brothers and sisters, we ultimately see a point at which we see mutual respect. But Mara doesn't see that. She sees the cosmic fates that underlie everyone's actions and everyone's moves, including those of her brother Uldren. And over time, I think she's allowed that to skew her perspective. In a certain way, I wonder whether she is a little bit like Dr. Manhattan. After all, if you know the lore of the Awoken, you understand that Mara built them, and built the Distributory, their original home, with the intent of one day leaving it so that they could face the darkness. She manipulated political plots and discontent within the Awoken people for millions, if not billions of years, and in doing so, she ultimately helped to undermine governments, to create war in a place that had only experienced peace, and to turn people such as Uldren Sov to her side. Perhaps one of the most highlighted things about the way that she treats Uldren is a comparison by which she treats Sieur Ido. If you take a look at one of the most important lines in the story of Sieur Ido and Mara Sov, it's simply that anything she loves must have a degree of power over her, or she cannot truly love it. This is one of those moments at which I think her relationship with Uldren might be truly highlighted into something. After all, can we truly say that Uldren had any power over Mara? I don't think we can. Now that Crow is independent, perhaps he does have some power in the ability to say no, but ultimately, this might be a case of too little too late. There have been consequences to Mara's actions here. She has used Uldren to gain significant power over time. He introduced her to the Wish Dragons and executed her orders wherever she desired them. However, the consequences of her actions here and the dependence that Uldren was brewed with have suddenly become much more stark, especially in the last few years. With her death at the hands of Oryx, before her resurrection was made apparent, Uldren was easily manipulated by Riven of a Thousand Voices, who merely had to assume Mara's form through whispers and some kind of illusion in order to assert her own will and turn Aldrin into a puppet. Now, the thing is that Crow has a chance to be free from this dependence, and ultimately, maybe this is another reason why Mara has learned to respect him and perhaps has rediscovered some kind of love for her brother. He has unintentionally proven that she does not have power over him, and has said the words, no. However, it's not to say that Crow isn't also dependent on some superior guiding figure, because he's fallen into all the same traps that he did as Aldrin. And this time, the people guiding him have not been so generous. They have indeed been Savathun. After the near altercation 2 weeks ago, Petra Venge made commentary on this fact when she communicated with us in private in the Helm.
I don't need to be Marasov to see into your mind, Guardian. You think I'm making a mistake. You think I barred Crow out of pettiness. I won't say I didn't recommend it, but it was the Queen's order, for his own safety. I see Prince Aldrin's arrogance in him, his desire to please. He's vulnerable. Aldrin and your Crow are echoes of each other. Surely you can see that. They share kindred weaknesses. Savathun will exploit them again if we let her. But with Mara back, I can finally see the end approaching. It's been a long time coming. There are still Techians in need of your strength.
Yes.
I wish I could fill their place, but this must be how things are. I'm here if you need me.
Ultimately, if Crow is to find his true destiny, I think that Crow does need a
he said
guide,
it.
but a guide who is willing to give up the reins to him and trust him to make his own decisions.
He said the thing.
His entire story, regardless of whether you look at him as Aldrin or Crow, has been reliant on greater figures deciding his destiny, whether that's Mara or Savathun or us, or even the Traveler in the Hawkmoon mission. And it's maybe one of these moments at which he will come into his own when he starts to become a character with his own agency. At current, he sits pulled between the clutches of two squabbling queens. One is his old sister Mara Sov, who would have him continue to serve her needs and become a powerful tool to extend her reign. The other is the Witch Queen Savathun, who would use him as a scalpel to divide the forces of the Reef and the city. In the end, Mara created the dependency in Aldrin and drove him into a position where he was vulnerable to the manipulations of others. This is a painful fact that she is still probably unwilling to confront. Not that she had much of a choice this week. Mara and Ikora had a heated conversation about Aldrin and Crow, one that ended with a hard truth. Take a listen.
How long have your hidden been privy to Aldrin's resurrection?
Long enough to watch over him in your absence.
And you didn't direct him home. Why?
There was a concern he'd pick up some old habits.
Yeah.
You know the Guardian is sick. Riven twisted his mind. Eris would have seen it. She is not so easily deceived by skin-deep tricks.
It's true I made mistakes. Out of an idea of justice. Out of grief. Are you leveling this same scrutiny toward Petra? Wasn't she supposed to be watching his grave?
Petra has paid her dues. The Vanguard murdered him and is yet to pay theirs.
We both lost family. I'm sorry for my part in yours, but Crow has been treated.
My brother is dead. He was exhumed, his body twisted into caricature. You had your vengeance.
Is that what you're after? Cade, I still feel that
Dad.
grief like a stone caught in my chest. Some days it's more pronounced than others. Vengeance didn't erode that grief.
Then tell me, who am I to blame? Who sent him into Savathun's clutches? Who bludgeoned Aldrin into a scared animal and drove him from his home?
You did, Mara.
Damn.
And those guardians who hurt him did so out of misguided anger. Don't make their same mistake. Don't make my mistake.
Misguided or not.
Regardless of whether Mara is willing to accept the truth or not, she is determined to win back her brother, in whatever form he might be now. She knows that the greatest obstacle to this will be Savathun the Witch Queen, whose claws are now firmly dug into Aldrin's mind. However, the short discussion with Petra that can be found in some of the lore from this week reveals yet more about her conviction to get her brother back. Or at least, someone who could serve the same purpose as he once did. Someone who has the same semblance of personality that he once had. It's found in the Ripples Lawbook, Part 4, and it reads as follows. Petra Venge hangs her head and examines the hilt of her sheathed knife. Transmat particles still swirl in the air around her like tiny flecks of dust as she steps forward through the Helm Gate to answer her queen's summons. Mara Sov's voice washes over the chamber's stone and crystal. He belongs here, Petra. This place draws his old self out. She pauses, knowing Petra will be silent while allowing her to steep in the words. You saw it too. He should have never been allowed to leave. I wish I hadn't, Petra says, with a heavy sigh. How am I to proceed? Mara stands on the terrace above her. Give him only morsels of who he could be. Nothing substantial. He is a canvas on which work has already begun. I mean only to guide that work to a familiar conclusion. Such things cannot be rushed. Petra shifts her stance anxiously. You're sure? Are you questioning me, Petra? Never, my queen, but I do worry that he is vulnerable to Savathun's influence, Petra offers. She clearly has taken an interest in him for some time now, and he clearly reciprocates that interest. Your words hold no falsehood.
No cap.
You and I will mitigate this danger. If Crow and Aldrin are to meet, it must be a subtle progression. Mara Sov leans over the terrace railing. I believe my brother's recovery is possible, Petra. Will you help me? Without a moment of hesitation, Petra responds. I will do anything you ask, my queen. But doubts sprout in her mind. If he does become problematic, Petra trails off.
Yo, what's up, okay?
Searching
Welcome
for the
to
right
the stream,
words.
man. Happy reset.
You
How you doing?
needn't worry, Mara soothes. If Savathun moves to exploit him, I will put an end to it myself.
Oh shit. Oh shit.
I have a feeling that in the coming weeks, a battle of wills is going to take shape, with the Crow as its prize. Determined as she is, I think that Mara Sov's blatant, controlling stance, and the way that that makes her act, is going to drive a wedge between herself and her former brother, and send him spiraling into the clutches of the Witch Queen. Perhaps we'll be there to save him, before he falls from a cog in one queen's machinations, to a cog in another's. But that's all from me for now.
Hype.
Thank you very much
Okay.
for watching. If you enjoyed the video, go ahead
doing
and
good,
leave a
man. I'm
like.
doing good.
And if you
Just
have
watching a
any
little bit
thoughts
of
of your own,
Floor
go
before
ahead
the
and leave them
reset.
down below in the
Trying
comments
to catch
section.
up on like
How
all
do
the
you
stuff that I didn't get a chance to really
having a
watch
strong
over the
will is going to do in the ascent?
So I just heard about Crow and Petra, or like Crow and Mara. She's trying to get Crow back, but we already saw Crow has his memories now and he dipped out. So now we gotta see. We'll see what we're doing with this week's story.
Greetings, Guardians. My name is Bife here. So, let's go and talk about one of the most hotly requested topics
Actually,
out there right
I'm gonna say,
now.
you know what I'm gonna
We're
look
going
at.
to talk about Throne Worlds.
Not that. I want to look at. This is it. That's good to hear, man.
Greetings, Guardians. My name is Bife here. So what is going to happen with the spider in the future? Well, I think that a dramatic change is afoot for our not-so-friendly loan shark and material dealer of the Tangled Shore, and that change comes from the hands of the Queen of the Awoken and newly returned true ruler of the reef, Mara Sov. Spider may have been running the show on the Tangled Shore in her absence, but now that she's returned, there's an air of change that doesn't quite suit the self-proclaimed Shores-only law. In particular, though, Mara isn't going to take kindly to Spider for a few key reasons, and chief amongst these is his treatment of her now risen light-bearing brother, once Aldrin Sov, now the Crow. The Spider's history with Crow is already pretty well documented, and it's fairly recent considering that it happened only 3 or 4 seasons ago in the season of the Hunt. But in case you weren't aware of it, Crow found the Spider on the Tangled Shore and was taken in by him. At first, there was a little upfront warmth and hospitality shown, but it didn't take long for the spider to withdraw his meager kindnesses as soon as Crow began to run against the grain, so to speak. Punishments began to get doled out, but the loyalty of the Crow was still mostly unbroken. There was a point at which all of this started to change, though, and that point can be found in the lore book called A Tangled Web, in the entry Revenant's Switch. It contained details of the moment at which Spider took drastic action to ensure the Crow's loyalties were guaranteed.
Oh, when you put a
The
bomb
lore
in his
entry
ghost.
reads as follows.
Jesus.
The ether pipes were howling. Spider sat hunched to one side of his throne, head in hand when Crow returned from the field. Baron? Crow addressed his ostensible benefactor. The spider looked up and wordlessly beckoned the Lightbearer over. Upon reaching the throne, Crow took a knee. What was it we talked about before you left? Spider's rhetorical question sat like a weight of stones on Crow's shoulders. Crow didn't look up, and when he started to answer, Spider cut him off. Guardians can't be trusted, was Spider's reminder. They can be useful, they can be powerful, but never trusted. Baron, I only thought to... No, Spider bellowed. You didn't. If you thought about anything, you wouldn't have exposed... Spider caught himself, words turning into a snarled grumble as he laid back in his throne. You screwed up. Crow, head bowed and eyes fixed on the floor, said nothing. He knew the spider's anger, knew his displeasure, and knew his wrath. He held no desire to face it again.
For Grandmasters, man, you gotta get up
But
there.
maybe there's some... The spider hesitated and chose his words carefully. Wisdom in your defiance. The Guardians are too good a resource to cast aside, especially on matters beyond our mutual... expertise. It was only then that Crow looked up, questioningly. For a moment, he felt humbled pride. Perhaps he believed that act of defiance had broken through to Spider, revealed Crow as more than a convenient light-bearer. The spider held out one hand. I have an idea to protect you. His offer sounded sincere, even if Spider meant his investment and not Crow as a person. Send Glint over. Crow grew tense, looked away, and then thought better of testing another act of defiance so soon. With a nod, he showed his compliance as Glint manifested at his side. The ghost fixed on Crow with a nervous look, then flew up to Spider. What do you require? Glint asked. Instead of answering, Spider snatched Glint out of the air with one hand. Glint shrieked, and Crow stood swiftly, but just as swiftly saw the arc pikes of Spider's guards thrust at him. Spider made a clicking noise in the back of his throat and reached for a set of tools nearby. Tools used to pry open the shells of dead ghosts. They would work on living ones just as well. What are you doing? Glint demanded, fear in his voice. Crow stood frozen, having faced Spider's punishment before. But this was his ghost. A part of Crow also feared that perhaps he was misreading the situation. He was so certain that Spider would never do anything to permanently hurt him, but when Spider shocked Glint into paralysis with a small needled tool, Crow was disabused of that certainty. Stop! Crow cried as Spider wedged a flat tool between Glint's shell plates. No! With a snap, Spider popped one of the casings off. Then he looked up to Crow and switched tools. Don't worry, the spider said in soothing reassurance that flowed like ice through Crow's veins. I'm just going to make some modifications, he said, igniting a cutting torch, to better protect you from the world. This and the many other cruelties that Crow suffered at the hands of Spider are not necessarily recorded, but they are well remembered by Glint. Now, with the return of Mara Sov, it appears that Glint's recollection as a key witness to all of these cruelties is going to help seal Spider's fate. In the astral alignment of this week and several weeks passing, Mara began to ask some rather pointed questions of Glint and Petra. Take a listen to what she asked Glint.
Glint, if you had to describe the way the spider treated Crow in a single word, what word would that be?
Well, the spider is a valued member of the shore's, ecosystem. I wouldn't want to offend.
The spider is not here.
Well, I would say... horrible.
Wow.
He was horrible.
Snitch.
He tortured Crow,
Straight
demeaned
snitch.
him, treated him like a possession.
That's enough. I have all the confirmation I need.
She, of course, also asked Petra Venge what the spider had done to
Marasov's
assist the
PogChamp.
Awoken in their moment of need. Petra responded as follows.
Petra, what assistance has the spider offered us in this endeavor?
None, my queen.
I am not surprised. When
There's
you're
no
through there,
shit.
we will discuss this.
Oh, I wholeheartedly agree. The spider may claim to be the shore's only law, but there is one ruler of the reef. It's time we remind him of that fact.
The Queen of the Reef has weighed the merit of Spider's actions and clearly has found him wanting.
Yeah.
With his fate all but sealed, the Spider has turned to another survivor for a possible chance at survival. I almost don't need to tell you who it is if I let you know that he's interested in the job, thanks to the prospect of making a quick buck. All of this can be found in the
Interesting.
seasonal Ghost
Obviously.
Shell and its lore tab. It reads as follows. The sound of noisy chewing echoes down a long metal corridor in Spider's lair, interspersed by the beat of footsteps. You ever try any of this? Drifter asks, tugging on a length of chewy, battered meat clenched between his teeth. Spider ambles along beside him, pausing to give him a look. No, Spider answers, his respirator hiding the way his upper lip curls in disgust. What is that, anyway? Your boy said it was chicken, Drifter notes, nose wrinkled. I'm thinking he ain't never seen a chicken before. Spider's sigh is muffled. The reason I asked you here, he says loudly, forcibly redirecting the conversation, is because I wanted an honest, unfiltered opinion on the situation in the city right now. It tastes like petroleum and bubblegum, Drifter mumbles, pulling the wad of meat out of his teeth. Drifter? Drifter raises one brow as he looks back at Spider and claps a hand on the big Elixir's shoulder. Come on, I know what you're looking for, he says with a laughing confidence. You want old Drifter's seal of approval on moving your operation. Spider is silent, but resumes walking at Drifter's brisk pace. The Kell of Kells runs a tight catch, Drifter says as he flicks the chewed up meat onto the floor.
Ew.
That whole mess with the future war cult aside, things are looking up for his people. Drifter glances at Spider, then jabs his side with 2 fingers. Emphasis on his. A fine time for humanity to start differentiating between us, Spider sneers. But they let you stay there, so they can't be too discerning. Let is a bit strong, but I get your point, Drifter says. The hallway ends at a large pair of closed doors. Unguarded, Drifter notices. Now that Marasov has returned, I think my days here in the reef might be numbered, Spider explains as he flips open a rusted panel, then keys in an access code. The doors jerk to life and slowly grind open. She may have some hard feelings over my little bird, he added over his shoulder with a laugh. And let's be honest, she seems like the type to hold a grudge. A bright light spills past the open doors, and Drifter is eclipsed by Spider's shadow. So, no, Spider says as he swivels to face the Drifter. I don't want your seal of approval. Spider steps to the side, allowing the Drifter to look more fully at what is hidden away in the hangar. A ship. I want to know if you can smuggle me out of the reef. The Spider and the Drifter have crossed paths before, But the power
Exactly,
dynamic between
right?
the two has
I
never
need
been
Spider.
quite so
We
poorly
need
balanced.
Spooter. How am I gonna
The
get my
Drifter probably
materials?
knows that the Spider is willing to pay a great deal in order to ensure his continued survival, and perhaps the survival of his enterprise, should the possibility arise. But knowing the Drifter, he's going to exploit that fact to his maximum advantage. There may be no honor amongst thieves, but where there's glimmer or gold, at least a profit can be made. Anyway, that's all from me for now, and I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, go ahead and leave a like, and be sure to hit subscribe and the bell next to subscribe to turn on those email notifications. On top of that, let me know in the comments section down below what...
5? Okay, let's see. All right, let's see this one more, and then we'll log on for the reset. Because it's almost time for Grandmasters. All right, let's see what we got.
Greetings, Guardians. My name is Byfear. So it happened. What we all were dreading might occur has indeed occurred. This thing that might well be a part of the key manipulations of Savathun. She told Crow about his past.
Oh,
A
shit.
few weeks ago, we had this encounter with Crow and Petra that really set the stage for where the story was bound to go this week. Take a listen in case you missed it.
Osiris was like family to me.
You've never even met him.
I know. Just let me speak to Savathun, please.
No. I won't give that witch another chance to dig her claws into you.
Maybe she's right, Crow.
Yeah, Crow.
You know I am. Savathun is already in your head. You're a liability to the mission.
Why do you have such a problem with me, Petra? 5 minutes, that's all I'm asking.
The Queen of the Reef forbids it.
Well, I don't take commands from the Queen of the Reef.
Savathun unraveled the Dreaming City with a single wish. I've spent years trying to contain
that mistake.
Better men than you died because of it.
Okay, Daddy.
Here it sounds like you're the liability. Maybe your queen's trust in you was misplaced.
It's fucked up. Oh, she drew a knife?
A knife against a hunter?
Ooh.
I'd
Spicy
be more
Petra.
careful who you pick fights with.
Another step, and my Corsairs will have to prepare you a second grave.
I also want to really quickly replay the moment from way back in the past when we had a similar confrontation between Petra, ourselves, and Crow, or Aldrin Sov as he was in that moment, defeated at the end of the Forsaken campaign, and with a relatively important interaction that is now about to become even more pivotal. Take a listen to this.
Bitch.
Congratulations. You have my undivided attention. Now where's my sister?
Bro,
She's
fuck
not
your
here,
sister.
Aldrin. And if she was, this would be a whole lot easier.
So,
Petra's hand cannon looks stupid.
this is to be a reckoning.
Wait, not like this.
Bitch, what?
Look at him. He's finished. Even with everything he's done, we can't just...
You have no idea what he's done!
Whoa.
If Cade was here, I know what he would do, Guardian. Do you?
Yes. What would the notorious Cade 6 do? You have his gun. Seems you get the last word. Everything I did for her. Funny. The line between light and dark is so
Very thin.
very thin. Do you know which side you're on?
Look at the sad look on his face.
Remember the moment when Aldrin says, "Everything I did for her." I think it's about to become important to understanding the context of where Crow's character arc is going to go. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at what happened this week, and let's all see how things unfolded.
Ah, yes.
I thought you were my friend.
Am I not?
You lied to me.
I helped you break Zivu Aras's hold on the shore, brought you to the last city, offered you guidance.
Sabbathic.
Stop.
If that's what you want.
I want the truth.
I was kind to you because I wanted to be. Because the truth hurts. You know this better than anyone. Shrinking away from the rumors of the man you used to be.
I'm not him.
How can you say that when you don't even know who he is? If the truth is what you really want,
Oh boy.
then lay your hand on me.
Oh boy.
Crow, don't. Please.
Yo, she's kind of big.
Even your ghost thinks you're better off in the dark.
That's like 20 guardians tall.
Crow, don't. Don't come any closer. What did you show him?
Everything.
Damn.
No, wait! You hurt him.
Someone had to. Better for it to have come from a friend. Don't give me that look. I told you that you can't stop the
She
inevitable.
knew.
Deep down, Crow
Oh,
wanted
okay,
to
yeah,
know.
you can't do too many,
He was going to
you
find
can't
out
do too
one
many,
way or another,
symbols.
guardian
I had to
taboos
remove
or
it because of the
no.
hate rates and stuff.
You should thank me.
But yeah, Sabbathic, baby.
Just imagine if it had come from someone with bad intentions. Someone who could have colored the truth about how he died.
I should turn that
to
back
turn
on
him
at some
against
point.
you.
I will, but for right now I
Against
can't.
the traveler.
Until we fix these
But I
bots,
would
I
never
can't
do
turn
such a
the
thing.
I can't turn the symbols and stuff back on.
I see too
'Cause that's how
much
they
of
be hiding
myself
words
in
and
him.
stuff.
We were both looking for our purpose. Now that the Crow has found his as a guardian, he can see it for what it truly is.
Hype,
A second chance.
hype.
Something to reflect on. If people didn't want him to know, was it to protect Crow from himself? Or was it to protect themselves from Crow? I do so enjoy our talks.
Me too.
Ikora, I need to get out of here.
What happened?
I don't want to talk about it. I want out now. Either you reassign me or I'm done.
Done.
With you, with the Vanguard, with everything.
All right,
Crow, you have my
calm
full
down.
support. If you want to be reassigned, I can do that. But maybe you need to take some time first.
If I stop moving right now, I'm afraid I'm going to fall apart at the seams. I need to keep moving, but I can't do that here. I need to be as far away from her as possible.
Would you mind working with someone you know?
Who?
I need an operative.
Why
to
wouldn't he
act as an
mind that?
intermediary with Empress Kite.
Oh,
It's an important
okay.
responsibility. Maybe we could discuss it in person.
I'll be at the tower soon.
It says I'm offline. Can you see my chat?
Awoken
Because it's
prince,
playing on my thing.
brother to the queen, murderer. Now I know the man I was. And you. I'm sorry. You did what you had to do. I don't think I would have told me either.
9 minutes ago, rip.
Savathun's visions were like a waking dream. I could feel the heat of the flames.
Hold on a second.
Taste the
Let's see
blood in
something
my
real
mouth.
quick.
I saw everything he did through his eyes. You're afraid of who I used to be. That he'll come back somehow.
Oh, wow. It does say I'm offline. Why?
I am too.
That's so weird.
So I've asked Ikora to put me on another assignment. One where I can be somewhere I
Twitch is
know my
being
choices
weird.
are my own. Tell Mara. Tell her whatever you want. I'll see you again when I'm ready.
Whenever you're ready, Crow.
I don't think anyone is going to disagree with me when I say that this was the worst possible outcome for Crow as far as discovering the truth about his past was
You hear
concerned,
music.
and to be honest, I don't even know if Crow knows the whole truth or if this is some edited and manipulated version of it. You see, we don't understand
That's
how
so
Savathun
weird.
showed him his past,
Okay,
and
hold on.
for all we know, the vision he's been shown could be edited in some way. It's clear that the broad brushstrokes of what he did have remained vaguely the same in this vision, though. He was the brother to and chief
That's
enforcer
so
of Mara
weird. I
Sov.
guess Twitch is
He
acting
fell
up.
into ruin at the Battle of Saturn. He killed Cade 6, our friend. He was killed by us, or Petra Venge, at the watchtower of the Tangled Shore. However, we don't know if anything further has been altered to suit Savathun's needs. If it has, then we are in a huge degree of trouble, because we don't know what ticking time bombs are lying inside Crow's head. He could be highly compromised for all we know, but none of this is easily confirmed, so it's hard to tell if this has happened or not. On the off chance that Savathun was in fact just being honest, and did show Crow his past life without altering any details, I think there is a moment we need to recognize here, a massive moment for Destiny generally. Guardians
Generally.
don't know much about their past
Alright,
lives,
hold
and
on.
if
Let me
Savathun
see
did
what-
only show
I'm gonna come right back.